Alright, I was not gonna go live today, but well, I've been kind of slacking on going live the last week or so, but I seen this Ashes of Creation AMA with Steven, and I figured, well shoot, you know what, if I'm gonna watch this, I might as well watch it live on stream. I'm not really doing anything like that spectacular in WoW right now anyways, besides just grinding out heroics. Just kind of a boring day overall. So I mean, I might as well stream. I'm hoping, you know, that I've managed to fix my PC issues. I haven't had a single issue while not streaming over the last little bit. Well, since the last time I streamed, I haven't had an issue with any crashes or, you know, especially with WoW game crashes. That's what I was getting the last time I tried to mess with my RAM, is I was getting game crashes in WoW, and then, you know, trying to...
Now.
Shut up, dude. And then basically after that, you know, it was just kind of reopening the game while on stream was causing the stream to not function properly. I don't think that issue is fixed per se, but I think, you know, we got at least the crashing part resolved. Shit, I went one too many arcane blasts with that. We'll go one short on that one then. Yeah, brother, can I get a heal? I can't hit him from there, and I don't want to run all the way around, so we're just gonna hit him with a damn blizzard. Just so I don't have to go up there. It's that lazy mage mindset. Damn, I'm actually really hungry right now. I wish I would have gotten food before I started this stream up. That's alright though. I'll figure out. You know, maybe here in a second. Well, you know what? Actually, I probably should grab at least something to snack on. That's what I'll do. I'll grab something to snack on after this dungeon, and then we'll react to this Ashes of Creation AMA after that. You know, I didn't think about it, but I wonder if my voice mod is doing stuff. Or no, I've got it turned off, I think. Should be good. At least I hope. My gear is definitely starting to come along a little bit. I got my Heroes Frostfire robes yesterday, which was super, super sick. And then I got my Sandals of Crimson Fury, which I still need to gem. So that way my blue gem can work. I'm really, really hoping that the trinket drops this go around. We need that sucker, like, bad. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not crazy about, you know, replacing my Dark Moon Card Crusade trinket. Because it's just super satisfying. But if this is better, it's better, you know? Need to take some chill pills. God damn it, man. It's always something in this damn dungeon. Just hit it with a blizzard and then not think about it. You know, I guess if I'm gonna watch it, I should probably make it the main focus of the stream. We just do a react stream. The hell is that button? You know, it's funny, I actually don't know what my scene for React looks like, or if I ever fixed it. I don't think I did. Oh, let's just take a look real quick. This is supposed to be React. I'm way too small, that's for sure.
A valiant defense, but this city must be razed. I will fulfill Malagos's wishes
I guess that's good enough.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh crap.
We finished the
Alright.
It's locked.
Let me out, brother.
It's locked.
I need to figure out where this damn key is. Oh, you know what? I bet it's from the quartermaster, and the quartermaster has to, for Kirin Tor, it's got to be here in Dalaran, right?
Greetings.
Let's see, vendor.
Go
Maybe
on,
not.
friend.
Alright, let me take a look at this real quick. Kirin Tor quartermaster. Archmage Alvaro. Where's he at? Oh, yeah, of course that's where he's at. That only makes sense. It looks like my stream is still having frame drops though, and I don't know why. That's gotta be an internet issue. Because I swear I didn't have those before our internet, you know, changed or whatever. Discretion is key. I wonder if that is like actually something quest line we have to do. I've got exalted with the Kirin Tor now, which I think sell me the ring. Archmage Alvaro. Yeah. I could have swore this dude was the one that sold the ring. Kirin Tor ring. Oh, okay, so maybe that's not there then? Interesting enchants and stuff though. Oh. Sapphire Spell Thread? Isn't this like the best leg enchant? See. Let's see here. Main hand, trinkets, rings. Yes. Yep. Signet of the Kirin Tor. Bought from Harold Winston. And when we go look at the legs, feet, legs, the brilliant spell thread or sanctified spell thread if Taylor. Oh, okay. Yeah, that is what I am. All right. So no, I don't have to worry about that.
That's still recharging.
All right, let's go talk to this fella over here about these rings. I don't think it's any of them. It said it was over here, didn't it? Jewel crafting supplies. This has got to be it. Oh yeah, Harold Winston. There we go. So the Band of Kirin Tor, 6,800 gold. I don't have 6,800 gold. And when I do get 6,800 gold, I don't know if this is what I want to spend it on, to be fair. Is there a phase 2 bis list yet? I'm just kind of curious on how the ring stacks up, you know, like Like if it's future proofed, like if it's BIS phase 1, phase 2, you know, going into phase 3, like yeah, all right, dude, 6,800 gold, sure, we can do that. But if you're talking BIS off of one phase over a ring, man, it just doesn't seem worth it. Just take these other two, you know, right below it and be happy. You know, haste, spell power 50-59, haste, spell power 49-59. And then this, you're getting less haste, you're getting the same spell power. You get a teleport, you know, to Dalaran, but I'm a mage. I already got a teleport. So only thing I'm really gaining out of having this is an extra 36 crit, which I probably don't even need, you know. And then when you look here, I can get a 25-man ring from Kel'Thuzad and then just have this Emblem of Valor ring. Yeah, man, there's no point in buying a 6,800 gold ring, you know, for just a little bit of crit. Like, that's crazy. If I was like a warlock or something who didn't have engineering and needed a teleport to Dalaran that wasn't my Hearthstone, like super niche thing, all right, then maybe, you know, like maybe I spend 6,800 gold for that teleport, basically, you know. Other than that, though, yeah, that's just stupid. And you gotta think, before I even got exalted, you're talking 8,000 gold. Like, what in the hell, man? I need to get my...
Need help?
I think it's Argent Crusade. I think I need to get them to exalted. Here's the prison key.
Light bless you.
Oh, did this give me the key to here? Is that real? Let's see. Yeah, that's literally all I had to do was to get this. I've been asking people to let me in, and that quest is literally all I had to do to get the damn key. All right. We need to run costs. I mean, we need to run everything. I'm probably gonna be running this stuff in the background while I'm doing the react to the Steven thing. You know what, man? It would be good to do it as a mainstream react, but I don't think I want to. I think it's better just to have it in the bottom and, you know, just go from there. Because I'm not, when it comes down to it, I'm just not going to make a YouTube video out of it, you know? And even if I do, I don't know, even if I do, it's just not, it's not worth it, you know? I think it's much more engaging to be able to hear what he's saying and then basically watch me go through the heroics. Because it's not like he's going to be showing anything on screen that's like, you know, you need to see it type stuff. Oh, you know what I do need to do? I need to adjust my raid frames. That is like something that I really need to work on real quick. Because during raid, I was not able to see tank targets and, well, I'm not even able to see that in parties. All right, so let's see, group, party, display frames. Raid roll indicator. Oh, raid ready check icon, resurrect icon, roll icon, target group. You would think that target group would be, I don't know, we'll leave that off. What I need, let's see, tank, yeah, tank. Can we display tank frames? No? Why am I not able to see? Go back to unit frames. Why do I have raid 1, 2, and 3 now? This is not how this used to look. What I would like to see is the tank's target, but it's not really showing. So let's see, individual units, target of target, targets, focus, target, pet. I don't need to see pet target. I need to see tank target. Which you would think would be tank group units. And then cutaway bars. Target group. I'm not really sure what target group is. Is there a like a help thing? Here, let's do it this way. / move UI. Main tank frames. So like, yeah, so see what I would like to see is the main tank's target listed like right under it. And I would like to know why my raid frames are all different. You know, what's the difference between raid 1 frames, raid 2 frames, raid 3 frames? Is it the difference in like 10, 25, and 40 man or something? So maybe raid 1 frames are for 40 mans. Raid 2 frames are for 25 man. And raid 3 frames are for 10 man. I'm guessing. Which is great and all, but it still does not show me their targets. Target marker icon. See, party frames. Cast bar. Now that's interesting to be able to see the cast bar of the party. I wonder where it puts that though. Display. It doesn't even show me where it puts it. It just keeps changing healths. Custom text, cutaway bars, debuffs, fader, heal prediction, health, information panel. Now that does something. I just can't tell what it's doing. Oh yeah, no portraits. Combat icon. I don't know what that really does either. I'm imagining it probably puts something on your frame if you're in combat, which I don't really want. I could see maybe wanting to know that in like as a tank in a raid. But other than that, targets, target. So here we go. We could make focus target a thing wherever it's putting that at. Yeah, so focus targets frame, and then maybe just put the tank on focus, I guess, or just put whoever, you know, because say I make myself focus, and then, yeah, so I'm on focus, that's my focus's target. I mean, it's not a great solution, because I know there is a better way to do that. I just don't know. I don't know how to make it happen. Alright, can you take me off focus? Yeah. I don't like having myself targeted either. Let's ask the guild. Because the only thing I'm seeing is when you go to unit frames, group units. And this is the only thing that would make sense. Like, this is the only place the setting would be in. Middle click set focus will cause your focus to match the unit. I'm guessing nobody in the guild knows either, which is a little frustrating. Alright, whatever. Let's just try to queue up for costs. And let's start on this video. And see what good old Steven's got to say. Probably need to turn it down maybe just a little bit. Hopefully it won't be too loud over me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to
No, if I had to guess,
another
I
stream
probably need to match it to
that
me.
we are bringing to you today. I'm super excited. We had one of these last year, I believe, sometime before, I think it was before our Alpha 1 test.
Tell me that's not a throw, dude. I'm telling you right now, they're gonna announce Alpha 2 in December. Like, they're gonna announce it, you know. Listen to that. I mean, he literally says, oh, the last time we did this was right before Alpha 1. You know, it's like, all right, dude, all right, I see what you're saying. Like, and this is what I thought beforehand, was like, we're not gonna get Alpha 2 on Christmas, but we're gonna get the announcement of Alpha 2 for Christmas, and then it'll likely be within maybe the first 3 to 4 months of 2023, which I would be really, really psyched about, honestly. You know what? While I'm waiting to queue, let's just go ahead and make this big. You know.
That we did. And I had a really enjoyable time actually doing that AMA because there was a lot of fun questions. And obviously, you know, we have our monthly live streams and we show a lot of things there. And we try to dedicate as much time as we can at the end of those live streams for Q&A. But thing that you guys are so involved, those of you who are tuning in, and it's really a great thing that you guys are so involved, those of you who are tuning in, that you ask these questions and you give us feedback. And so it means a lot to us to be able to kind of have this exchange with you, to kind of answer these questions. But from these answers, it spawns a lot of conversation in the community, across the forums, across Reddit. And it's really great for our team to kind of go in and take a look, and our team does go in quite often and look at the Reddits, look at the forums, you know, read the threads and the responses, the experiences that all of you have had across different games, and obviously a lot of these ID systems are very
What do you mean,
familiar
default visuals?
to many of you out there, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel to make a really good MMORPG.
Target
And a
group
lot
under
of
the
our
tank bar.
concepts come from the
Okay.
games that we've played in the past, and we've kind of brought
wasn't-
them together, as many of you know, in one single game that is Ashes of Creation. So really excited to kind of go through this. We've obviously, as many of you are aware, we had a thread on our Reddit, and for those of you who went and posted questions there, you had an opportunity to upvote the questions that you thought were most pressing or that you wanted to get answers for. And the community team has put together these questions in a list of 50 that, we'll see how many we get through today, but has put them together. I haven't had much of an opportunity to kind of look through them, so I'll be answering them a bit off the cuff, just obviously from my knowledge. And if there are some things that I can't answer, of course, I will say that we'll be reserving the answers for later, but I don't expect we will have that issue. So I have my trusty iPad here. I'm going to take a look at some of these questions, and we will begin. So, the number one upvoted question that was present on the Reddit thread was, since Ashes will need a healthy and active player base on each server, do you have a plan in place to deal with server merges?
Is that
And that was asked by Hybrid
Really?
PS2. So,
You're just gonna
to
invite a
answer that
bunch of
question,
DPS and not
yes,
think about
we
it,
do
like,
have
at
a
all?
plan in place for how we would want to go about conducting server merges. For all of us who have played MMORPGs,
yeah, we
we're
do
aware
have
that over time,
issue here.
populations can dwindle on a particular server. New
look, you
user
can-
acquisition isn't usually the strongest aspect of MMOs. Typically, you see
That's
a
not how
large
that's
portion of the
supposed to be set
population
up.
start on day one, and a lot of MMOs suffer a bit of attrition going forward from that. And of course, there are opportunities to recoup that population during
we go.
expansions and during updates. But ultimately, most MMOs that we've played fall into needing to have server merges. Now, that can become a little bit complicated, especially when you're dealing with things like property ownership and owning homes and having mayors and castles. All of those things contribute to kind of a complication in how server merges are conducted. For Ashes of Creation, excuse me, I might cough a little bit during this AMA, but I apologize in advance. For Ashes of Creation, we have also an element of world building, and that's how these cities obviously come up. Now, we know that Ashes of Creation will facilitate regionalized server locations, and this means that prime times in those regions will adhere to the associated time zone that they're in. And as such, server merges will be conducted within those particular regions between servers that share that prime time zone, so that we're not mixing populations with different regions as we do the merges. That's one aspect of the merge strategy that we have as part of our solution for server merges in the future. In addition, there is something that we would consider a weak and strong server. When we think about pairing servers into those merges, we think about how the populations have progressed at the time the decision gets made to make a server merge.
Yeah, 'cause
and we would
that's
have the
really
weak
tough,
server
man.
merge into the strong server.
Because you're talking about a
depending on,
totally like different
what
balance
that
of
means,
power.
from the player's perspective of things like usernames and the ability to change those names because names are unique on a per server basis.
Yep.
There would be an opportunity for players to make name changes who are coming from the weaker server. And then when it comes to land ownership and property ownership, the weak server that's merging into the strong
they
server,
going?
there's two potentials there.
probably already down.
One, it would be a reset on those land ownerships and homes for both servers, and they would conduct the opportunity to reestablish their ownership when that merge is complete. Or the alternative, if there's a much stronger server, then the weak server would be coming in with an opportunity to make that population reacquire those houses. This is something that is, of course, important.
really should have made
and
something
you guys
before
giving
this.
feedback on kind of
Chewing
the
some
types of
gum.
strategies you've seen in the past would be super beneficial to comment on and talk about how you
I
would
wonder if I got
foresee
some crackers or something.
server merges working best in Ashes of Creation. The second question that we have next up is, what work or milestones still need to be completed before Alpha 2's launch? And this is from Judgment Dismal. A large portion, excuse me, a large portion of what we are doing, as you guys saw in Alpha 1, a lot of core systems were stood up. That's progression, that's AI behaviors, that's open world tech, that's distributed services, distributed servers, that's the ability to maintain persistence, to acquire and progress, combat stats and the skill trees, nodes leveling, collecting experience, all that stuff we saw as there was no NDA present for Alpha 1. So those are kind of core mechanics, right? And when we think about how Alpha 2 kind of steps up further, a lot of that is putting in content for those core mechanics, adding additional classes, which of course come with different types of feature requirements on an ability system basis, adding content to the quest systems, including events.
I just want to know, like,
adding
where
aspects
do they,
of
like,
the
hit
naval systems, the professions and gathering and artisanships. You know, a lot of that is what is being worked on currently towards Alpha 2's end. And of course, each time we have a monthly live stream, we show you guys progress in some of those systems, a large portion of which was our combat revamp, which of course has taken a lot of player feedback as we go into iteration phases for that stuff. But when we talk about, you know, what is outstanding work, milestones that are required for Alpha 2, much of it is content. Because Ashes of Creation intends to be a very rich content game. We've always talked in the past about how we combine the elements of both a theme park and a sandbox element to create decisions that matter, to open doors that have actual content behind them, as opposed to putting that kind of responsibility on player-driven mechanics that a lot of sandbox-type games have utilized in the past. So much of it is content related. Number 3. So the number 3 voted question: how many abilities will be made or are planned to be made for each archetype? And this is from Sanic Explosion.
Fix
well,
the location of the target.
First, it depends on the archetype. Some archetypes will have some more active abilities available or some less active abilities available than others. It also depends on combination of passives as well, and how that interchanges with the active skill sets and the acquisition of those skill points and distribution of those skill points. That's important. But when we think about, on average, what is each archetype going to have from an ability standpoint, it's roughly going to be about 35 to 40, right? And of course, that doesn't mean that the player will have the opportunity to spec into all of those abilities. You're going to have a limited selection of skill points available in order to spec out your class. And that's going to be important because it provides not only agency to the player to kind of make those types of decisions, but it gives a diverse, excuse me, it gives a subset diversity within that archetype where decisions kind of choose specialization paths within the skill tree for that particular archetype. And we've talked about how, you know, we don't want to have what a lot of us have experienced in other MMORPGs, obsolete or not utilized abilities, right? So we kind of keep that selection relatively limited. Next question, number 4 question. I'm not sure if it's a good thing that it's number 4 or number 1. No, I'm just kidding. But this is a simple question. How are you, Stephen? I'm doing great. I'm doing very good. You know, we've had an awesome year this year, and we have some still fun activities and streams that are planned in October, November, and December. And I'm looking forward a lot to, I think this is our 5th year doing Extra Life, which is going to be next month. You know, that's always a fun time. But more importantly, I think what
Man,
keeps
it's wild
my
they were
heart
in, like,
warm
the fifth year of the
over these
development.
years, having building games is difficult. Building an MMORPG is probably the most difficult type of game that you can build.
Yo.
And our
Yeah, I'd
MMORPG
imagine
is
it is
a
not
particularly
easy to
ambitious
build something
one.
that's
So
actually.
team
Damn it, boys! I need
work
to grab my
hard at
bagel.
creating something that they to bring to make you guys proud,
This is
to make
blocked
you
this real
proud, to
quick.
make each other proud. It takes a toll. It is a difficult job.
Let me just go grab a bagel
making
real quick.
games.
Let me just go
And
grab it. Here, y'all kill
with
this
that
thing.
being said, we've built an amazing team at Intrepid, and it feels very much like a family. So getting up each day and going into the office and working with the colleagues at Intrepid is a delight. And it's something that I've thoroughly enjoyed over these years, and also being able to interface with you guys in the community who are fellow MMORPG lovers and enthusiasts, who have confidence and faith in us to deliver a product that is going to answer the call that many of you have.
The paladin anymore.
That is a very exciting
coming,
prospect,
boys.
and it keeps me very motivated.
It'll be all right.
So that's always great. I guess I'll touch on this point real quick. Recently I've heard some discussion, from different parts of MMORPG genre and audiences about, why follow a development process? Why not wait until the product is complete and try the product then and talk about it then? And I just want to stress that as consumers of this product, as consumers of this genre, as players of MMORPGs, many of us have felt that the genre has gone in a direction that doesn't represent what the player base wants.
Yep. I mean, it definitely has.
One of the very important aspects of our development process is that by having this following of the development, this interaction, this opportunity to provide feedback,
and then the more time you put into it, the more
watch development over time
it
and see things progress and communicate with the developers and give your thoughts and opinions and experiences. That's a very rare opportunity for the consumer to dictate the course, to a degree, to dictate the course of what a company or a product provider is giving you. And it's a rare opportunity because oftentimes these developments go for years without ever touching the consumer base from a feedback perspective. And the opportunity to provide iterative feedback during that process is lost. And when the product gets completed, there's not much you can do at that point other than hope to update in future expansions and correct and iterate in that regard. But as we know, a lot of products only have one chance at launching. Sometimes that's not the case. There are of course examples where that's not the case. But the opportunity to get involved early and during development is a very important consumer responsibility. And I think that demonstrating that as part of our development process has brought in a considerable amount of benefit to what Ashes of Creation hopes to be as a product. So I want to thank you guys for participating in that. Those of you who are watching, those of you who comment, those of you who interact with us on a monthly basis for our live streams.
I mean, WoW has always been the standard up to this point.
Something that takes a lot of patience
still, I mean, Final Fantasy 14 has definitely shown, the extra side of what's possible with MMOs. Like, WoW really showcases the gameplay side of things and what you can really accomplish, as far as the way a game feels to play. But Final Fantasy really opened up the doors to what's possible as far as like the extra stuff that you can do in a game, like player housing and, customizing, your glamour and, just emotes and, just what's really possible as far as a sandbox style of gameplay goes, and less of a theme park MMO. And I think Ashes of Creation has a real chance to kind of balance between those two things on top of, you know, a new style of gameplay that favors Black Desert Online. I mean, it doesn't seem exactly like Black Desert. It favors it a little bit for sure. You know, it's not quite. I mean, Black Desert really doesn't feel that great to play, and from what I've seen of Ashes of Creation, it looks like it has that same kind of agency that WoW has, of where you press a button and that's what's happening. When you move a certain direction, you're moving that direction. You know, so yeah, I just think Ashes of Creation has set itself up to really become the new standard if they do it properly.
You've dreamed about, or that you have a strong desire to play, and it is something that's difficult, but we really appreciate it at the studio. All right, number 5 question: when can we expect to see how secondary archetypes work in game? From the Dictator. So I've answered this in the past. We will be experiencing secondary archetypes, and you will likely be seeing them very soon in some upcoming streams, but you will be experiencing them in Alpha 2 to some degree. This is really what makes a class feel different from an archetype. And to make sure we're clear on kind of what that terminology differential is, archetypes are the base 8 versions that you select. Classes are the combinations of the secondary archetype you select halfway through your leveling process. And it can dramatically change both the role as well as the active abilities that your primary archetype provides you.
See, that's just
and so we want to make sure that Alpha 2 has a healthy amount of those
going to be so much
secondary archetype
for, like,
choices, especially when it
groups,
comes to
you know?
augmentation of
Like,
abilities.
no
because
two
that is
raid
an
groups
integral
will probably
role
look the
in
same.
defining
Just because I feel
what
like,
these
you know, because there's so much, you know, opportunity and differences on what a class could be and how they can play together. I mean, of course, I'm sure there will be a meta, you know, but ultimately, I just think it's going to be so varied that, you know, it's just, I don't know. There's just so much opportunity, basically, just because of how different everything could be. But
classes represent. So Alpha 2 is the answer to that. Number 6, next question. Can we expect to get any pre-alpha spot tests this year or early next year? And would those be on NDA? From Lineker 180. Yes, we will be having spot tests. Well, technically we're already doing spot tests internally. We do that right now, but we will be including spot tests with some of individuals from the community as part of the next several months. And those will likely be under NDA. And that's because there are specific core systems that are part of Alpha 2 that we want to test. These will be very short-geared tests, likely hours long, starting first with some portions of the community that are present from Alpha 1 and for Alpha 2. But when we have dates solidified for those tests, you will be receiving communication from our community team. And that will be through email, of course, to the accounts that you have registered with us. And you'll be made aware well in advance of when those tests are upcoming.
Well, how would you know if you were
and to remind you, of course, Alpha 2 is not under NDA. So when Alpha 2 starts, that will not be under NDA. Okay.
Does that just mean like anybody who has access to Alpha 2 could potentially get access to help with the test, or no?
That staffs are melee weapons. Could you explain briefly what are the main differences going to be between orbs, wands, and spellbooks as magical ranged weapons? From Liss Pliss. Um, so, some staffs actually will be ranged. Interesting note. Some staffs will be melee. The main differences between what orbs, wands, and spellbooks represent as magical ranged weapons are going to be in their weapon skill trees. And it's important to note and remember that weapons themselves have their own bespoke skill trees that, through using these weapons, will provide you passives as well as proc-based type benefits that you can spec into as you are progressing within your experience of that particular weapon's skill tree. So that's the primary difference. But in addition, obviously, attack speed, attack range, different types of stat bonuses and waterfall stats that can be present on those types of weapons. Those are all differentiators between not just ranged weapons, but melee weapons as well. Okay, question number 8.
Y'all are
What
restacking or
are
not?
your
What's
plans
going on here?
to make healing skills fun, deep, and effective in action camera?
Shit.
And this is actually a question I'm not going to answer in too much detail, and there's a reason for that. We have an upcoming stream where we're going to be talking about the cleric in Alpha 2 and demonstrating some of the abilities and gameplay from the cleric, and that's going to be coming up relatively soon. But you know, what makes healing fun for a lot of healers? For me personally, and I play healers often in MMOs.
Yeah.
For me
It's
personally,
the best way to play as a
it
healer.
is almost like a little bit of a whack-a-mole type of game, right? Where if I'm in a party and I am the dedicated healer in that party, I'm very conscious of obviously conserving my mana for any spike situations that might call for me to be able to pinch heal. But I'm also kind of swapping and making sure that my rotations are timed appropriately and that I'm only utilizing skills from a minimal mana perspective that I need to, and I'm clicking across different members of the parties to kind of heal them as they need it, right? So a little bit of a whack-a-mole gameplay. When you're thinking about how to incorporate action as part of that, right? You have certain types of skills that you can use that are able to heal others, but are more skill-based, such as aiming that skill in a line type template, or proximity-based, ensuring that I myself am near other members of my party and that they're aware of my location and I'm aware of their location in order to confer the benefit of that healing effect because it's proximity-based. Also, formation-based type effects. For example, there's a really cool skill that we just began working on for the tank, where you have a vector required for players to be behind that tank that mitigates damage incoming from a different direction. So there's directional based type situations that require
dude.
location.
See, that's all right. Directional based, man. That is one of those things that Final Fantasy I thought did so well, and the fact that they pretty much took it out, you know, with some of the monk stuff, from what I understood whenever I was playing last, is kind of a bummer. I mean, there is still some directional based combat, you know, in the game, but it's still just such a great idea. You know, it adds, I don't know, it just adds more flavor and depth to a class. Like, yeah, is it going to be difficult to play? I mean, sure, but the people who can do it and will do it are going to enjoy it and will probably, you know, have a better experience with it. Yeah, man, directional based combat, that's another one of those things, man. It's super cool, and I really like the idea. And we're running behind, ain't we? We got 9 minutes to kill these last 2 bosses, which should be no problem, but
of players in your party to be cognizant of those locations. I think all of those things lend to a compelling and engaging type of combat situation where
Absolutely.
if players are heavily
You're not just
synchronized in
thinking
their
about
gameplay,
dumping
it
out your
feels really
DPS,
good.
basically. You're not worried about
And
just
getting off
pressing
those
the button.
types
You're
of
worried about where
abilities
can I
in
be,
maximum
what can I
efficacy
do,
is the highlight of different types of combats for people, right? Being able to achieve those things. So proximity based, template based, the ability to do more skill based type abilities is one of the ways that we make the healing type class and abilities more fun. What do you, okay, now question number 9. Excuse me, question number 9. I apologize again for coughing so much. Question number 9. What do you envision as the primary leveling systems for Ashes? From Kato Ricks.
I've already
The
got
primary
this, yeah.
leveling systems.
Pass on it.
So that's a bit traditional in the sense that when you are in the game and you're talking about leveling your adventuring class, right? And that's your archetype and your secondary.
There, right?
Questing and grinding are the two ways that are primary, right? Now, of course, you can achieve experience for your adventuring class through PvP, through artisanship and professions, through exploration, through raiding. But the primary methods are going to be a bit traditional in questing, story arcs, events, as well as through grinding mobs. And, you know, when I talk a little bit about kind of what that experience entails, my experiences that I've enjoyed in games is where a portion of your level does require you, or at least the adventuring level, to go out and interface with general populations, or to find a group and friends and level in a dungeon, or in a group setting. I do not personally enjoy when the entirety of a level can be achieved through simply questing, where you move from quest to quest station and you just do that the entire way, and that will level you up to next level.
Boring, and
there's a
you just want to
beautiful
get
world
through
out
it.
there in Ashes of Creation, and while questing can show you some of that world, there is also an element of that world that is wilderness and explorative, right? Where by going out and grinding and killing general population monsters as part of your leveling process, you are helping lend towards the development of civilization. You're helping bring nodes
give me my
up.
damn ring.
And that unlocks additional quest lines and story arcs and events, right? So there's a little bit of an equilibrium between that in a more traditional sense. All right, question number 10. And this will be the top 10 questions that were voted up.
I'm never going to get this damn ring.
What are some of the biggest challenges at this point of time before releasing Alpha 2? Now that is a good question. What are some of the biggest challenges? Well, one of the challenges, of course, is going to be the QA process, right? And, you know, we have a lot of rapid development at Intrepid Studios, which means that
Good call out,
we
brother,
will
'cause
test
I would
things and
not have
iterate on
looted
those
that.
things fast. And sometimes that can be a really good thing because we get an immediate, you know, hands-on look and feel touch of a particular system or feature. And sometimes that can introduce, that pace of development can introduce bugs, and it can introduce just a lot of things that need to be kept track of as you're creating, you know, the game. And that can be a tough process to find all those bugs and to make sure we fix those in time for a front-facing or public display of the product. And that's one of the
so him saying that makes me think that that's kind of what they're focusing on now at this point, is they're basically like, you know, they're doing some finishing touches on some Alpha 2 stuff, but they're really going through and like absolutely bug testing, because he's talked about internal beta stuff, like, you know, it really seems like they're ramping up for an Alpha 2 announcement, and that they don't really want to announce anything until they know for sure that things are going to look good.
Edge swords, the kind of thing of a transparent development process, is we're wanting to get things out there quickly and iterate on those so we can get feedback and iterate on that feedback. And in doing so, sometimes, we can have bugs that are unintended. So that's one difficulty. Another challenge is the sheer scope of the content. Right? There's a lot.
That's going to be
There's a lot, as
really
I said
tough.
before. There's a lot of content in Ashes of Creation, and that development, is a big effort. And obviously, we have a lot of talented individuals on the team that I've talked about many times in the past. You've seen them. We've talked about with them on live streams. But that is a big effort to create a lot of that content. I would say one other element from probably a technical perspective when we think about big challenges is we have lofty goals when it comes to player density. And being able to have a customized network solution that handles the type of player density we want to achieve. And you guys saw in Alpha 1 as we gave you a preview of that.
How cool would it be, speaking of player density, how cool would it be if you, the player, had the ability to choose how dense you wanted the area you were in at? Like, say, you were a person who liked, doing quests in groups, and you could, like, switch a little lever, put on high density, and then they would just be people who were doing the same quests as you all around, basically. Or, say it's a collection quest that has a lot of, back and forth, and you don't want people stealing your stuff, and you can just turn the density down. Hello. Just whatever you bring is fine. Yeah, just whatever you want to bring is fine. Yeah, just give me some of those, egg roll things, yeah. That and at least a couple things of cornbread. Those are the most important parts. The rest of it don't matter. Alright. Love you back. Oh, we eating Sunnies today. We're gonna eat barbecue. I'm glad I only ate the bagel. Alright, let's chew on this gum to keep myself held over until then. I just look forward to the day where you can basically have one server, one realm for an entire MMO. Maybe 3, which honestly, it's kind of tough. It's one of those things where if you did have that many people on one world, you would almost inevitably run into an issue where too much power would be concentrated, within one organization. Which would, cause the game to be rigged and just not be fun anymore. See, target group. We need this to be... Nope, that doesn't work. That also does not work. That does not work. Attached to frame? No. How did I move this earlier? Oh, that's how. We don't want it on the left. I mean, we can try putting it on top, but I think No, fuck, man, I don't know. Let's try moving my aura bars up. And no, son of a bitch. Move that back to the bottom. And then, oh, no, not like that. Not like that. And then move it down a little bit. Yeah. That should work. And that way I can still see my debuffs and stuff underneath me. See what's it look like when I eat. Yeah, I think that should work. I should be able to still see the cooldowns underneath people. What did I queue for? Did I say I queued for... Oh, UP. Yep. Oh god, Panicle. Let's go ahead and hit the Blight Path. Maybe they'll summon me before I get there. Alright, let's finish this
that
up.
tech and that network capability through the sieges that we've done. And if you haven't seen them before, you can go on to our YouTube and you can take a look at some of the Alpha 1 sieges that we had. And it performed well. It performed very good.
Yeah,
you know, a lot of the MMOs that I played in, when you
really
have
surprised
over
at
50
how
people
well
in an area, things don't start, you know, things start to get a little bit choppy.
I was really surprised
and
at their
I
network
believe
testing.
in Alpha 1,
Like, it
we
was
had a
really
test with
amazing.
almost 300 people. And I might be off on these numbers a little bit. Maybe it was higher than that. But we had a test with about 300 people, and it was smooth. I mean, it was smooth. There wasn't, you know, aside from perhaps some people in their machines and rendering, right, on the network side, it was pretty smooth. The server's FPS was good, and there wasn't rubber banding. You know, of course, we had bugs every now and then that would come up, but during those sieges, it was a pretty good performance. But it's always a challenge,
which is really amazing.
because you're creating a game in an open world. And so there's not restriction on player movement, right? Anybody can move across the world. And they can move into particular areas. And of course, we have network contingencies for how we handle when the server starts to go above what our intended density benchmark is, that we want to test both as part of Alpha 2 and moving forward. But being able to achieve that high player density is an integral component of what the system's design for Ashes of Creation is. In a castle siege setting, in a caravan setting, and naval battles, and in node sieges, all of those can lend themselves towards having a large portion of player density within a particular area. So that's always a challenge as well. All right. Question number 11, and I apologize. Hopefully this isn't going, too fast for you guys. I want to try to get as many questions as we can within the hour. So question number 11. How is the render distance vision on the sea? And will an item like a spyglass be acquirable to in order to get a zoom
like
in?
this, man.
And this is from Maisie0819.
Like, okay, don't get me wrong. Like, would something like that be cool? Absolutely. It would be cool, if the rendering distance on the sea that you could see so far, and then, like you could have a little spyglass to, see even farther, and shit. Like, yes, that stuff would be cool, but it's not necessary and really just isn't important to the overall, playability and structure of the game in my mind. And to me, I just don't know why that's what people are focusing on at this stage of the game. For me, I want to know more like about class design and about like how the game feels to play and how it looks and, what the gameplay loop will be like. All the little extra stuff I don't really care about right now. Like these world building elements, it's just not that important right now until we actually get our hands on an Alpha 2 and see that the game functions as intended and that there is a progression and gameplay loop that, for somebody like me is addicting and you can sink, hundreds and thousands of hours into it. that's where the real focus should be.
So render distance on the sea.
I mean, it's still fun to think
The
about these
character
little
render
things.
distance is going to be similar to what the character render distance is on land. So that's not going to change on sea. What, however, will be available to you that is going to be much further than the character distance is the ship viewable distance. So when you see other ships, depending on the class and size of that ship, you will see them on the horizon at greater distances just from your character's viewport, right? However, when you incorporate apparatuses like spyglasses, which we do have available, and it depends on whether or not the ship has that type of attachment, both one available to it, but two equipped to it, because these are interchangeable attachment slots that you can choose to spec your ship out based on the class of vessel you have, what type of attachments it can contain because of its class, and then what you're able to
I'm gonna
acquire
want like
as
a
well.
very big
Thank
boat.
you.
I just want kind of a.
Those are going to be available to you, and now those
it
will
depends on what kind
provide
of
you
class I play,
more of
realistically,
a
depending on how
overview
in-depth I
radar
go with the boat
perspective
stuff.
of the surrounding
Because if I decide
area
to go like as
around
a
your ship.
wizard,
And the
to
distances
me, I
of
don't
that,
think a
of
very
that
big boat. I
radar,
want kind of something
essentially,
small. and
will be also predicated on the class of ship and the type of spyglass or type of instrument that you are using.
But if I go as like a cleric or something,
And
then
it is
I'd want a big
important to
boat.
note that you have an element of what's above the water, what types of ship are above the water, but also, as we know, we have, as you know, we have aquatic mounts also, which are capable of going under the water. And some of those mounts have abilities that affects ships that you can acquire. And as such, there will be other types of tools that ships can have in order to detect movement under the water as well. So that's important. Okay, question number 12. Can we get a concrete list of professions and which artisan classes they belong to? That is a good question. And the answer is yes, we can get that. Actually, let's do it live. I can access and tell you what those are here. So, I'm sure the artisan team is likely like, oh my God, we're doing it live. We're doing it live. Okay, so we have 3 types of branches that exist within the artisanship system, as you know. We have gathering, we have processing,
it's gonna be me in like 10 years.
We have crafting. And each of those, as you guys know, have different realms of applicability. Gathering, of course, is out in the wild. It's predicated on having the available tools. Those tools come from vendors, and you need to have supporting node structures in place around the world at certain levels in order to acquire certain tool sets that will allow you access to higher tier gatherables out in the wild. In the gathering profession, we have mining, we have lumberjacking or logging.
That is right up my
We
alley.
have herbalism.
I love chopping
We
trees.
have fishing.
Herbalism
We
is
have
good.
hunting.
Fishing is good. Hunting is good.
So those are the gathering professions. In the processing, we have metalworking, stone masonry, weaving, tanning, lumber milling, farming,
Oh, brother, you're just
animal
really
husbandry,
pushing it, huh?
alchemy, and cooking. And in the crafting, we
Alchemy
have
and
weapon
cooking is
smithing,
good.
carpentry,
Mhm.
arcane engineering,
Oh, that
armor
would be
smithing,
cool.
leather working, tailoring, jewel cutting,
Man, there's a lot of
scribing.
professions.
a scribe.
That's a lot
So-
of professions. That's awesome.
Is that the first time we've released? I think that is the first time. Oh, okay. All right. So there you go. There is a concrete list of professions.
I mean, that's a lot, man. You
Excuse
could
me.
Like, there's
of
so many
professions in the game.
options in the game that I think
And many of
raid
those will be
groups are going to
available
be
in
so
Alpha 2
fun
as well.
just because of how varied
And actually, as
every
a point,
every
as a
person,
note,
what they brings to the table is going to be something different.
something that we'll be collecting more feedback on is there is a gameplay layer to crafting. And those professions that I listed for the crafting,
and that's something that Final Fantasy, I feel like, has brought into the forefront of MMORPGs. Is like crafting, gathering, all that stuff in Final Fantasy is not like it is in WoW, at all. Like WoW, you just go to the auction house, you buy the stuff, and then you push a couple buttons, and bam, it's leveled up, it's done. Final Fantasy, like, there's whole little storylines and events you can do, and I mean, there's just so much in-depth to it, and so many cool little things that you get from it, from doing it along the way. And I really, really hope that Ashes of Creation takes that path of, like, story-based crafting quest lines with cool rewards and, just super individual and specific to a character. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not like, the reason that I think it works so well in Final Fantasy is because you're able to do all of them. You're not really limited to only being able to do one thing. Whereas in Ashes of Creation, I feel like there's a chance that, maybe it does like WoW and is like, all right, you can't do all of them. You can have like 2 main professions, and, a secondary profession or something. I hope they don't do that, but they might do something similar to that.
When you go to create a particular item, you will have the opportunity to interface with that gameplay layer. And for example, and this is something you guys will be testing, this will be probably one of the spot tests actually that's coming up before Alpha 2. For example, if you're creating a sword.
See, he said it again. One of the spot tests that's coming up before Alpha 2. Like, and the way he says, like, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but the way he says, like, spot test coming up, that means it's like the spot test is already planned, and then there's an Alpha 2 that has already been planned. Which, to me, and then he says the spot test is soon, so to me that just sounds like we're on our way into Alpha 2, and at the beginning of next year is what makes the most sense to me. I mean, I guess it's possible we could get it even sooner as like a Christmas present, but I doubt they would be that, because people are going to be still playing WoW and stuff well into Christmas with Dragonflight coming up.
And you're crafting that sword. You will have an interface, a gameplay layer that you will see, and you will begin to hammer actually that sword into an appropriate outline. And your performance there can help influence the outcome of your craft in that sense. Now, this is something we especially want to give feedback or get feedback on. What is it like to interface with that type of gameplay layer? Is that something desired by crafters?
Yeah, I've got to fix my Omni.
Our designers, Corey, Brian, Mike, have done an awesome job in kind of detailing out what each of these professions within the crafting realm will utilize from a gameplay layer perspective when completing these crafts. And I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. But getting player feedback on that, because this is something that is a bit different than what we're accustomed to in a lot of MMOs that we've played, especially from the traditional crafter's perspective. Getting your guys' feedback on that is something that's going to be important. So keep a lookout for that. Okay. Question number 13. How many active players, monthly subs, are necessary for the game to survive? That's a interesting question. And at how many active players would I consider the game to be a success? Well, that is a good question.
That is a good question.
I don't have a specific number of what is necessary for the game to survive. What I would tell you is that we have millions of pre-registrations for Ashes of Creation. And it has been absolutely phenomenal to see the excitement that exists out in the community and in the genre itself of old school players, legacy MMO players who have wanted to see these types of systems merged into a single title for a while now. But more importantly, also a dedication and commitment from a company to ensure that the integrity of the game is not broken by pay-to-win monetization strategies or by pay-to-convenience
wants out of an MMO right now.
And I believe that has been a primary motivation for a lot of players to be excited about Ashes of Creation and to follow its development. When I think what the active player count will be on launch based on forecasts and projections that we internally create that are predicated on pre-registration growth, on average revenue per paying user that we've acquired so far, and those of you who have wanted to pre-order the game, you know, I believe that we will launch with 1 million plus concurrent users.
Jesus.
That is my expectation.
1 million plus people, insane.
And to qualify that projection, when we think about the types of titles that exist within the MMORPG genre,
I mean, what is WoW's current player base?
What is this?
I don't think it's that much, is it?
Window of opportunity to present a next generation title that is utilizing a next generation engine like Unreal Engine 5, that has the visual fidelities that we are showcasing as part of our monthly live streams, and you guys can see the quality of the artistic development that our team has, and that espouses the types of design systems and philosophies that Ashes of Creation espouses, right? And when we think about watching at least just this year's development updates and the execution behind many of those systems, when we talk about the character creator and we talk about weather and systems, and we talk about combat reiteration that we've done, and still what's to come this year, I think many of you will agree that that execution has been pretty good. And, you know, let's just take the character creator, for example. It's been a goal of ours since 2017, since we first launched the Kickstarter, we verbalized our desire to have a next generation MMORPG character creator, something that lives up to a particular standard from other games that we've seen, like
the characters' looks are definitely there.
And you know, that was talk, that was goals, and it's great to kind of
the actual
verbalize
customization
what
is nice.
those
I hope
things
there
that
is
we
a little
want to
more
achieve are.
specific customization.
And this year you got to see
like
the first
WoW
iteration
the
of that character
of
creator, and I think to many people's surprise, there was an execution there that held up to what our desires were and what our verbal goals that we stipulated were. So in that regard, when we think about executing on the designs and systems that we've talked about for so long and we've seen as part of the core feature set available in Alpha 1, I believe that Ashes of Creation will be one of the most popular MMOs. And that belief is a healthy belief. It is not a bad thing. It's not overhyping. You know, it is a quote unquote class, right? When we talk about what the crux of that is, it's the ability system, right? It is creating these unique abilities that have sometimes very bespoke mechanics that are involved. Margaret's like, hey, you got to smile. I'm like, I know, I forgot. Sometimes I get too a little clinical when I talk about design, so I apologize for that. But yes. So to answer that question, a lot of it is ability system. A lot of it is combat feel, the movement, you know, the
depending
weapons
on,
that
like,
you're
it's
using.
gonna,
And we've made a lot of progress as part of defining
and
what those weapons are,
honestly,
how they
Alpha
feel,
2
how they
is
look,
probably gonna be just
doing
me trying to
implementing
figure
the
out
actual
what class
mechanics for them
feels the best
that
to
are
me to
present in
play.
game now.
Like, does using a bow and arrow feel
And
better?
taking
Does
what
using
we've
magic
learned from
feel
each of
better? Does
these and
using
taking
melee
them
feel
on to the
better?
next class
And
and
then
to the
just
next
kind of
ability.
going off of that.
And we constantly are building up that kind of repertoire of mechanics that are available in the ability system. Keenan and Adam have done an amazing job in supporting from an engineering perspective what capabilities are provided to the design team in order to create these abilities. But then there is a lot of art that's required to sell the ability as well. It's not just the design and engineering that's necessary. It's Jim and John and Matt and the VFX team and the technical art teams that are accompanying the visuals and the effects for those types of
all of that is important.
abilities. And it's the sound effects requirement from Kat and her team to, you know, to create that tactile feeling, that auditory, really important component that associates with the visuals.
Because don't get me wrong,
selling
like,
those
I
types of
really,
abilities. So
really,
even
really
when in a
want,
pipeline you
you know,
have
a
design
mage to feel
completing
good on that
what the
game.
mechanics
But
of the ability are,
playing a hunter
there is
or a
still the following
beastmaster,
steps, which
you know,
are
I think would be
finalizing
just
the visual effects for those
super
abilities
cool,
and then handing
super
that off
satisfying,
to
having like
to
always having a
audio
pet
to
to play with.
incorporate the sound effects that accompany the visual effects. And before those can even begin, it's also animation. It's also animation work that's required as well, because you know that pipeline is a long one. So when we talk about how are we doing in completion, we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good on that front. You guys will continue to see updates as they become available and are prepped for a front-facing perspective so that you guys can give your feedback. And we have another one that's coming up relatively soon to showcase as well. Question number 15.
All right.
What is the intended leveling progression experience considering node citizenship and the lack of much fast travel? From Landshark 10 or X, sorry. The intended leveling progression. So we know that we don't have a lot of fast travel. When we think about faster travel and what's available to us, we do have node to node travel. And that starts out.
I'm not going to lie though. I will be a little let down if they don't allow the arch wizard to have some sort of portal. You know what I mean? Like, make it super expensive or something, or make it have like a super long cooldown. Like, maybe you can only use it like once a week or something on reset type of deal. But I think an arch wizard should have some kind of portal effect, or one of the class / subclasses. Like, it has to be that exact combo. So not the archetypes, you know, but a specific off, you know, archetype / off, you know, secondary class type combo should have something like that.
As land travel. So essentially you can visit a building within a node and you can pay a fee and you can take a faster travel route across roads that we know that Vera has an ancient roadway system that was present prior to the fall, and that's utilized as part of these nodes when they pop up. They create connection points to these arteries, these road arteries essentially within the world.
Is this going to be fast travel
and
though?
The very basic building that you'll have access to starting at a node village stage of 3 is to jump on one of your land mounts if you have a land mount, pay a fee, and take a faster route to a nearby node. Now, you can upgrade that building at later stages, and that can now become a flight path as well. And that flight path can have longer direct connections to other nodes that also have a flight path.
That is interesting.
In addition, we
that.
have scientific nodes that when a metropolis is achieved, provide within network of that metropolis's vassal structure, the ability to teleport to nodes as well.
Okay, so
there is some faster travel that becomes available as the world progresses. So
Because don't get me wrong, like I would love to play as either an arch wizard or a high cleric and help develop a science node, you know, and be the leader of something like that. That would be cool. I mean, maybe not the top dog leader. Maybe I've always been a second man kind of feller,
So the
but that
intended
would be
leveling
cool.
progression experience will start out different than it likely ends, right? When the world is new, when things are fresh, when there's not much nodes or development that's occurred, much of your experience will be localized unless you choose to spend the time, and there must be meaning behind that choice, I'm assuming, right? So that travel is meaningful. When you choose to spend that time traveling, you can leave that locality. But early in the game's experience will likely be very localized. And as the world progresses and options become more available for you to have faster travel
And
across
this is
large
another one of
swaths
those
of
things why
land,
it's going to be so
then that
important.
experience might
You
be
know,
less
people are going to
localized,
want to
and there might
start
be
off
more
on this
travel
game day
towards
one
faraway
just to
lands
see
and
how their
dungeons or
realm grows.
points of interest in order for you to capitalize on. So I would, trying to answer this question best, the intended leveling progression is intended to be something that changes over time and that's predicated on the state of the world. That's the best answer I can give there. Okay, question number 16. If I'm a ranger and I'm 50 meters away, but I'm prone or crouched, you won't be able to go prone, just an FYI. And the jury's still out on the crouched. We're still talking about that. That's something that will require player feedback. In a bush,
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about
will my
crouching.
nameplate be visible? Will Ashes of Creation lessen the visibility of nameplates based on the above so that players can stalk their prey? So, in this, in a sense, excuse me, in a sense, there are ways for you to obscure your nameplate. Much of that
Probably item based
obscurity will come
or
from line of
items.
sight related obstructions. If I'm behind a tree, if I'm in a large bush, those are ways that you could potentially obstruct the visibility of your nameplate. However, with that being said, the spirit of what I believe this question is attempting to achieve is the ability to reduce visibility of your character and your presence within an area. And in that sense, because we are more traditional in the sense of the number of skills that are afforded each archetype, we have particular skills that are intended to do just that. Those types of skills are
Right.
things
Yeah,
like
that's
camouflage.
the best way to go about
They are
that.
things like
Is with
stealth
skills
and invisibility.
and less about like
They are things like
walking into a
disguises
bush
that
in the
can
world
be
having
used
to
perhaps
register it.
even
It's
change your
much better
nameplate and visual
to
appearance.
it's much
We
better to
really
have this
want
stuff
to
be
be
item
able to leverage
skill based.
utility-based skills in your skill tree
It's
composition
much
so
more
that if you
realistic.
would like to spec into this type
Not
of
realistic in
role,
the sense of
there
like,
are
oh, it's
particular
so real.
archetypes that
Realistic
excel
in the sense of
better
like
at those
that seems
things.
reasonable to achieve.
And that helps sell class fantasy, right? And there are really cool mechanics that you can incorporate as part of that. We have a lot of objective-based gameplay. Your ability to move unseen on the battlefield is an important component of objective-based gameplay. So I would delegate a majority of that functionality you're attempting to achieve in this question outside of the realm of just in-world obfuscation and
Yeah,
more
right.
into the realm of class role and class kits. And
Absolutely.
yes, the answer is we do have those abilities. Okay, question number
That
17.
just makes like it just seems
Will
more
archetypes
realistic to
like
be
the
able to
tank
do it that
or
way.
bard be
Like,
as
because could you
viable?
imagine like having to fucking code like when you it's I feel like it's much easier to code a skill and push a button than to code the world to register every time you walk into a bush. You know, like, oh, now you can't see me. Oh, you can see me again. Now you can't see me. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, they've done some pretty amazing things with world, like the way the world interacts. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think that they could probably do it. It just doesn't seem like the smartest, you know, use of resources when it comes to just trying to finish the game.
As DPS or healers in small-scale PvP, such as ranked arenas. From Gorilla. And I apologize, but the last question was asked by Legitimate Device 33. And if you have to say you're a legitimate device, are you a legitimate device? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, the answer to this question is tanks and bards will be viable in PvP. Yes, they will be. And the reason for that is the design philosophy of a rock, paper, scissors type of relevancy across our trinity of class systems, right? And that is the ability for you to have opponents that you are naturally better against because of the types of class composition, skill compositions you have available to you in your class.
How am I supposed to kill him?
So short answer to that question.
There we go.
Yes.
We sock him.
Question number 18. If a node gets destroyed in a siege or due to atrophy, will it leave behind any evidence? Physical ruins, NPC dialogues in other towns? And this is from Yawanosi, or Yawanok.
That's a good question.
When a node gets destroyed,
that is a good question.
There actually is a period of time in which the node exists in a ruined state. And during that ruined state, the node proper, which is the footprint of the node, and this is something new that we changed a while ago, but I don't think we've ever discussed yet. That footprint of the node, the actual grounds of the node itself, the city,
I'm supposed to be devouring the spirit,
becomes ruins with treasures inside of it. And those treasures are essentially derived from certain things that the node accomplished, either through the relic system or trophies, or goods that were brought there into the warehouse, or can come from certain types of service buildings. And those ruins exist for a number of days equal to the node level. And during that time, it's doing a few things. One, it is an open PvP ground. Anyone who chooses to enter the city proper ruins,
I like that,
can try to find treasures in that area.
Yeah, loot marks.
Right? And it takes time to kind of dig up the treasures. It takes tools to dig them up. This is something you're opting in to do.
That sounds fun.
And during that time, other players might be in the area as well, and they might choose to take advantage of the fact that you're there and kill you and take those things, or you can take their things and kill them, but it's an opt-in zone. The second thing it's providing is an opportunity for the nearby nodes that perhaps were prevented from advancing in level due to that previous node having been there. They have an opportunity to kind of progress before that node pops up again as a crossroads or as an encampment. That's another thing that it's providing. And so to answer the question shortly, there is evidence that's left behind in those physical ruins, essentially that the siege was successful.
I like that, man.
Completed.
It encourages open world PvP.
Okay, question number 19.
Those people a place to go and a
funny.
reason to go there.
It is so funny because Margaret and I were talking yesterday and we were saying there's a list of 50 questions. I wonder how many we'll get through in an hour. And we said we'd probably get through 20. And we're on question 19. Okay, question number 19. When a node develops into a city, if I am logged in 24/7 and I'm staring at the node, what is it doing? To answer that question, when a node has a level up event, it tells the server, tells one of the managers on our server, and it says, hey, I've reached the requirement necessary to level. And when that message, that notify goes up, the manager then says, awesome, we're going to spawn some system-driven caravans at a nearby starting portal, and we're going to send that caravan off to the node, and that caravan's not destructible, can't be destroyed. It's just a visual appearance, right? And you have this a bit of fanfare with new supplies coming, You see NPCs that are starting to construct, hammer on the buildings. They have supplies that spawn around different areas of the node. And if you're just staring at it, what will happen? If you're outside of the node, you will see an event occur where the node pops into existence, essentially. There'll be some animations and visual effects that are associated with it, and you will see the new facade of the city appear. If you're within the city, you will be teleported to a safe location, likely a respawn area that's near the city, and you'll be able to watch as the caravan approaches the city. It advances in stage. I see that there's a question of what is a world manager. A world manager is a technical term to define a server process that kind of lives alongside the game server. And when the game server needs to do things that it's communicating with other game servers within the grid, it tells that manager, and that manager sends it down to the appropriate server. So that's essentially what a world manager is.
It's interesting.
Okay. I think this might be our last question. Question number 20. Should I choose 20 or should I choose a good one? 20 might be a good one. In order, yeah, that's true. How many active skills? We kind of already answered this one. How many active skills will we expect to be able to slot? That's really up to kind of, I mean, it's going to be different. It depends. It's going to be based on how you allocate your skill points between passives and actives, and how you might invest in more active skills because those can have additional investments in them. So it just kind of depends. The rough shot there is going to be around probably 15 to 20-ish, I would say, is where it's going to land. Let me see if I will ask one more question. I'm just going to do a random one here real quick, and this will be our last one. Okay. Okay, this is from Yin Kirby. Question number 31, if you want to bring that up. Will there be any castle sieges in the ocean, coastal nodes, where ships can be involved? And the answer is yes.
Oh,
there
nice.
are specific castle. There is a specific castle and some nodes
castle
that are within range of ships.
Dude, that would be so sick.
On
to
the
have
node
that
front,
castle.
the ships really wouldn't be involved directly in
That
the
should be the
siege
science
assault.
city.
However, there will be some nodes that have ownership over certain points of interests, such as harbors. And those
That
points
should
of
be where the
interest during
science city is.
siege will have some objective-based gameplay that can be interfaced with from a naval's perspective. From a castle perspective, there are certain castles, I believe there's just one, that can be affected and is intended to be affected purely by the Navy. And then when you're on foot and you go into the castle, that's a different story. So
that is amazing.
Question. I hope that you guys enjoyed the AMA. I know that getting certain questions answered can be a lot of fun, especially when there are some updates. We had some updates here. I'm glad you guys were able to get a definitive profession list. I'm sure that will have a lot of conversation. I know that Margaret and her team are going to be ready to pump out some articles perhaps in the future for that. And that's going to be kind of fun to hear you guys chat about. We'll be doing more of these again in the future, especially after probably Alpha 2. Another thing that's important that I want to remind
he brings
those
up
of you who are
Alpha 2
watching
again,
is that
and
we do have
we're getting
an extra
an
life
Alpha 2
coming up.
announcement
You will
soon.
be getting some information about that with within this month, and that date is November 5th. So look forward to that. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun. Margaret comes up with some really cool ideas to kind of torture everybody who's at the charity event. But once again, guys, I want to tell you how much we appreciate you, how much we appreciate you guys tuning in and conversing with us and giving your feedback and being part of this development. Following a development journey is not for everyone. That is for sure a thing.
Yeah, some people can't
we're
handle
very
it.
excited about
They're
what
like,
we're doing. We know
"Oh,
you guys
but
are
it's
excited about
not,
it too.
it's not
That
a done
excitement
game. It's
is
not
great
good.
fuel for
It's
us
not
from a
done. It's
motivation
just
standpoint
trash,
as a
bro.
team.
It's not
And
real.
it's something we love to see
Just
every
fucking
time we
scam,
watch
bro.
a video from a content
I've
creator,
seen this
or
happen
we're
before.
perusing the forums, or on the Reddits, or on the Reddits, on the Googles. But when we're just out there kind of, reading
I
what
don't know
people's
what the
response and
Josh
thoughts
Strife
are
Hayes
about
said
our
about Ashes of
designs and
Creation, but
ideas
whatever
and
it was,
implementation
he
and
either
creation of
said
this
it
game.
just to get attention,
So
or
we have much love for all
he
of you
just
out
doesn't
there
know what he's talking
in the
about.
community.
That's all.
And
I
we
don't know what he
appreciate you
said, but
guys
if I had
tuning
to
in
guess,
today.
it's probably
I have
one of those two
always
things.
enjoyable time answering these questions, and I'll try to jump on Discord perhaps after this, later tonight or this weekend, and chat with you guys a little bit more about some of these questions that we didn't have an opportunity to get to. So if you're not on our Discord, make sure you jump in there. The Ashes discussion channel is always filled with other knowledgeable community members who can help answer any questions that perhaps didn't get to today. With that being said, thank you all for tuning in.
I wish I could get a job
thoroughly
like
enjoyed
that.
it, and I hope you guys have an awesome
a job
weekend,
where you
and I will
just
see
fucking
you all
interact
on
with
our next stream
a
at the end
games
of this month.
community and stuff. Just fucking be like a social media manager. I could do some shit like that, man. I mean, this is honestly, it's just one of those things that every time Ashes of Creation has a new update or they release more information, it continues to look better and better. And that is just not really something I've seen out of a lot of games, Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Albion did pretty well, as far as another game that's considered a startup, and that game continues to get better and better. Honestly, I wouldn't mind going back and playing a little bit of Albion. It's a little bit of a headache playing that game, but it is really fun to play. So, I mean, it's just one of those things, man, that with Ashes of Creation, it just continues to look better and better. And I'm really excited now because they brought up Alpha 2, like 4 times in that video, and it sounds like they're going to be announcing Alpha 2 really soon, which personally, I think they'll be announcing Alpha 2 at Christmas. Now, it would be crazy if they announced it next month and then released it on Christmas. That would just blow my mind. But I don't think they'll do that. And if anything, I think we'll get some news. I think next month we're going to get a look at some more systems, maybe. Not so much character specific stuff, but more overarching kind of system stuff. I mean, we might get some maybe like skill tree stuff for the characters. Maybe. I don't really know, but if anything, I think it's going to be more of an overarching thing. And then December, we're probably going to get a pretty good amount of information and an Alpha 2 release date. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. I don't know for sure, but that's what I think. But yeah, that was fun, man. I always like listening to Steven talk about Ashes because he just always has some new info to drop on us. Man, should I watch the big Ashes of Creation drama? What did Josh say about it? Let's see. I don't want to listen to Asmon talk about it. I don't want to. Oh, okay. It was this video. Don't believe the hype.
Being made by a small independent studio, heralded by many as the next big thing, the savior of the genre,
is.
the MMO we've all been waiting for,
I
the
think it
one
is
that
the
will
next
bring
big thing.
disenfranchised players together and provide the gameplay experience absolutely every MMO fan wants. Will this new MMO be the game to fix all the issues and save the entire genre?
Well,
In
yeah,
a
but now you're
word,
just-
no.
Well, yeah,
In many
I mean,
words,
it's not
let's
gonna
look
do
at the
that.
original Kickstarter, the team behind it, the media hype for it, and the reality of what they currently have, and then have a grounded discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Strife Hayes, and today I'd like to take a brief look at the upcoming MMORPG Ashes of Creation. What is it? Who's making it? And the insane levels of hype that have been generated
I don't think
around
it's
it. What we can
insane
come to expect
levels
from this
of-
game,
well, I think
and then
there
what
are some
players
people
are
who have
actually expecting from this game. I believe that the insane levels of hype that have been generated around this MMORPG is probably the single most damaging element currently out there for this game. Player expectation is way, way too high for this game, and it will ultimately end up harming it more than it helps it. I've seen people in my video comments on my YouTube videos, on my Twitch streams, in my Discord, and general people on Twitter saying, don't even bother playing any other MMORPGs because Ashes of Creation is going to eventually release and just blow them all out the water. People are preaching the gospel of Ashes of Creation above all else. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a bad game at all. In fact, it's got the potential, from what we've seen, to be a very, very good game, even a great game, dare I say it. But it's never, ever going to live up to the unrealistic expectations and the unrealistic...
Okay, so if people are salty about him saying this kind of stuff, I mean, they've got the whole situation just all wrong, you know? Like, obviously, because this is the same kind of stuff that I've said as well. It's just like, it's obvious, like with the iScope thing that I was just talking about on watching the AMA thing. Like, that stuff, yes, is very cool, you know? Like, and there's some of these world building elements that I think will be really fun, but they're not necessary to having a good game, you know? And we don't need this game to be like real life. We need this game just to be fun. Like, that's it. That's it. That's literally it. We just need the game to be fun. Where is Gundrak? Is it in Zoldrack? Yes, it is.
Levels of hype. People are hyping this up to such an unbelievable level that no matter how good it is, when it releases, it will ultimately disappoint people through no fault of its own. Before we begin, consider dropping a like on the video or subscribing to the channel for more MMO stuff. Ring the bell so you don't miss a single future video. As always, a huge thank you to my supporters on Patreon and Twitch who make all my content possible. More
because this is the same thing that happened with Cyberpunk, except for the difference with Cyberpunk is they just legitimately released a trash game. It wasn't even, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I actually liked Cyberpunk, and I had fun playing Cyberpunk, and I didn't really run into a lot of the game-breaking issues that people did. And a lot of people trashed on Cyberpunk, and honestly, I don't think it was really that bad. You know, I thought it was just a fine game. You know, it was fun. I liked the story overall. I thought there was a couple things that they could have changed about it, you know, but I mean, I had my fun with it. And that's what I think the same thing it's going to be with Ashes of Creation, but hopefully less, you know, destructive, you know, as far as like how the game runs. And
more on how you can support at the end. Right, let's begin. Ashes of Creation is a new MMORPG described on its website as an experience where everything is permanently impacted by your actions. Explore, trade, build, and let the world take form. From your imagination through your will and into everyone's reality, what you create will be the cornerstone of the next explorer's ambition. So straight away, we've got some bold claims of interaction and player creation within a permanent shared overworld. This system has been seen before in more hardcore MMOs like Mortal Online or Life is Feudal, where players can place buildings or shared crafting items, so this is possible. It's also often used in survival games where player-created structures are often the focus of PvP gameplay, so we'll look at this more later. Ashes of Creation is being made by Intrepid Studios. Over on their company website, we can see some quotes from the media about Ashes of Creation, with PC Gamer calling it the most anticipated MMORPG, MMORPG.com labeling it as Kickstarter's most successful MMO, and IGN saying, "We may find ourselves in love with the MMO again." That's high praise. That's exceptionally high expectations. So let's take the Kickstarter angle and have a look back at how this project began. Ashes of Creation was a Kickstarter MMO, describing it...
But the thing is they are incorporating a lot of things into their game design that people do want. Here's the thing. It's not going to meet the level of expectations of some people's hype, because some people just want a legitimate second life, you know, that just isn't possible. You know what I mean? But I think for what they are trying to create, this is the next big step in MMORPG gaming. Like, I think the system designs that they have in mind, if they make those work the way that we all think they're going to work, then it really will be the next step in MMOs.
Itself in the opening paragraph as the rebirth of the MMORPG. It then explains the evolution of the game comes down to what players decide to do. If you want a city or a marketplace or the comfort of your own home, it's up to you to build it. Or if a city is encroaching on your territory, it's up to you to destroy it. Now, giving players this level of freedom is always a gamble, because often people are more focused on the destruction instead of the creation, but we'll come back to this too. The change paragraph lists some very strange in-game weather and landscape interactions, saying the game will have quiet autumns and devastating winters, or a volcano that threatens to level a city, but then adds on one server, the volcano may never erupt. On another, the devastating winter may last 5 cycles, or with the help of a few heroes, maybe only 1. So we're going to have in-game weather and environmental damage that won't be the same on every server. The consequences paragraph says, change for change's sake means nothing without consequences, and then explains, when a player makes a choice in a quest, that choice cannot be undone. When that volcano erupts and destroys a city, the landscape is forever altered, ending with, the world will be in flux and history will remain where it should, in the hands of the players. While this whole paragraph sounds nice, quest choices in most MMOs cannot be undone anyway, so that's not really a unique point, and the consequences angle is interesting, because having personal consequences for personal actions is great design choice, but having consequences for the actions of others can often lead to griefing. If you create a house, you have a house. That's the consequence for your action. If someone else comes along and destroys your house, that's your consequence for their action. But now we get to probably the most unique selling point of the game, the node system. The Kickstarter explains, so let's just have a read. Every zone is made up of multiple nodes. Each node has...
in my mind, I don't think that they're just going to allow people, one person to blow up an entire fucking node. There's no way that they'll just let, there will probably maybe be some sort of, I don't know, vote, or maybe depending on the node, maybe there'll be a war about it, to fight over, the destruction or the survivability of the node, maybe. I'm not really sure.
Has a zone of influence. As players adventure and complete their day-to-day goals, their experience is being captured by a node through its zone of influence. As players level up, so do these nodes. With enough experience, a node might become a village or a city, or with enough experience, even a metropolis. As these population centers open up, players can establish citizenship through in-game node housing, instance housing, or our freehold system. So this node system will basically be dividing the overworld into specific chunks, and your actions within the zones of influence of a node will improve it or damage it, essentially making the entire overworld a massive territory control game. What happens if you max out a node and build a house and then someone else damages the node? Do you lose your house? We'll have to find out. Likely yes, because of the consequences they faced earlier. The Kickstarter continues and lists the 4 races, humans...
Yeah, but that's one of those things that I think it could be kind of fun. It encourages you to participate in the defense effort of your homeland, of which you are a citizen. Don't get me wrong, can it be annoying? Absolutely. And is it going to be annoying if, one guild is able to control multiple nodes, through vast, yes, we don't want that. We don't want one person having complete and utter power over an entire server. That is just not what we want. But the idea of hey, there's these people trying to attack our node. If you're a citizen here, you need to help us defend it. That's a really cool concept.
Elves, orcs, and dwarves, although they've all been given suitably fantasy-sounding names, and sub-races. Then below that, you've got the 8 archetype classes: tanks, mages, fighters, clerics, rogues, summoners, rangers, and bards. Now it seems this is the Kickstarter that people wanted because it raised over 3 million in funding, and the Ashes of Creation team have gone on record through interviews and Reddit posts stating they've had several million more added through private investors, so the project has a lot of money behind it. Not quite the hundreds of millions of the larger scale MMOs, but definitely enough to make a solid game. Now below that we've got a list of MMOs the team has worked on before, including Star Wars Galaxies, EverQuest, PlanetSide, EverQuest Next, EverQuest 2 and the XCOM series. So the team working on Ashes of Creation seem to have some experience behind them. So let's meet the team. Stephen Shariff is the founder and creative director of Intrepid. His LinkedIn page describes his experience as CEO of Intrepid with the position responsibility of revitalizing the MMORPG genre. There is no other experience listed. The guy may have had jobs before, but he's choosing not to list them. The lead designer is Jeff Bard. He's also on LinkedIn, and we can see he spent 5 years working for Sony Online Entertainment as a content designer for EverQuest 2, where he focused on writing the gameplay story narrative and quest hooks. He says he wrote over 200 quests. The chief financial officer is John Moore. His LinkedIn page shows his only position for the last 6 years is being chief financial officer of Intrepid. The lead programmer is Kevin McPherson. This guy has worked as a senior programmer on EverQuest, EverQuest 2, PlanetSide 2 and Vanguard Saga of Heroes. And the lead architect is Mark Stork, who has many years' experience in the games industry but only one named specific game on his LinkedIn page, the iPhone and iPad game Retro Assault Challenge. There are more team members, but this at least shows the people making this do have some experience in not only the video game industry but also the MMORPG industry specifically. My only concern so far is that all the experience is relatively old school focused, with EverQuest and EverQuest 2 taking up a majority of the team's design history. Now this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I've played those games, and EverQuest was a phenomenal MMORPG for the time. It dominated the MMORPG landscape for many years. It essentially wrote the book on what a good 3D MMORPG or a successful 3D MMORPG could be, a social focused MMO, and it was the king essentially up until World of Warcraft dethroned it in 2004. And many players do claim that they want to return to the design philosophy of placing social interaction at the very, very top, focusing on player interaction instead of solo-focused theme park style gameplay. My main concern with this is the MMORPG demographic, the average player, that's now shifted to favour solo players. The MMORPG is no longer as niche as it was back then and is now a much more general gameplay genre. People are playing the MMO who would have never played EverQuest precisely because they can play it solo or it's much more casual friendly. The MMORPG needs to provide tools for solo players to have a fulfilling experience and to keep up with groups, because if an MMO doesn't do that, it won't survive. Now you could argue that this solo-focused design has effectively shifted MMORPGs away from what they started as, which was social facilitators, social hubs, and moved the MMO more toward solo-focused single-player gameplay. And there's absolutely an argument to be made both for and against the pros and cons of that. But you do need to understand the demographic of the player base has changed substantially. So I really hope they're able to appeal to enough people to keep an MMORPG alive. Because remember, for an MMO to succeed, you need to reach a critical mass of players, both on release and then going forward as the game continues to be updated and continues to be expanded. And that becomes harder and harder and harder to do the more niche you make your gameplay. You need to appeal to as broad a possible an audience for an MMO to survive. They will do that. So we've got a highly funded Kickstarter with a relatively experienced, if somewhat old school focused team behind it, with a lot of very impressive gameplay design promises being made. Let's see what the general public opinion of the project has been so far. MMORPG YouTuber The Lazy Peon has covered it extensively and referred to it as genuinely the most exciting upcoming MMORPG. MMO YouTuber Kira TV made a video explaining how it was the hype MMORPG. Hackerai
It
made a
is.
video showing how it could revolutionize the MMORPG genre, then
It
another
can.
calling it the
I don't
MMORPG
understand.
savior. And website Massively
Well, I mean,
OP
that's
reported
kinda
on
taking
how
a
the
little
community
far,
hype
the
for the
savior.
game is reaching an absolute fever pitch. So it has reached insane levels of hype, and player expectations for this game are sky high, with many people making the bold claim it will save the MMO genre. So I guess I'll have to go against the grain somewhat and say this. Don't
Why?
board the hype train.
Well,
Because
it's
it
okay to
never
be
stops
like-
where you think it's going
Well,
to
I
stop.
mean, you don't have to have hype.
I'm
man.
not
Just
saying
be,
Ashes of
like,
Creation
hopeful for it.
isn't going to be good. It could be good. It could be
Exactly.
great. We'll look at
It
some
could
gameplay
be.
in a moment. We'll evaluate the quality of it. But it will not live up to the hype that you are building around it, no matter how good it is. If you expect something to be a 5 out of 10, and it releases and it's an 8 out of 10, you're pleasantly
Amount of
surprised.
potions.
It did
Let's just
better
plot
than you
for a second.
expected it to do. It surpassed your expectations. But if you expect something to be a 10 out of 10, and it releases as a 9 out of 10, despite the fact it's actually objectively better than the 8 out of 10, you are then disappointed. Despite the fact it's
I'm not.
actually better. You're disappointed because it
I have the same mentality about Ashes of Creation as I had about Cyberpunk. This game is going to be good. It's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy it for a little bit. Like, that's the same thing I thought about Cyberpunk. It's not going to be the greatest game that's ever been released. It's just going to be a good, fun game to enjoy. Like, that's it, man. Like, that's literally all you, like, it's really that easy to temper your expectations. All you got to think to yourself is this game will be fun enough to enjoy. Like, that's simple. Bruh, how am I always out of dust? I swear. One, two, three, four.
didn't match your expectations of being perfect. Despite being the better game, you are unhappy because you overhyped what it was going.
You know what? It actually just feels like the only people that, like, it's all right. I feel like somebody, you know, who's probably excited about Ashes of Creation, kind of like how I am, has probably said something to Josh, like in his chat or something. Is like, hey man, this game's gonna be really fun. Like, you know, they're really doing a lot of really cool stuff. You should, you know, look at this, yada yada yada. And then he's taken that as like, you know, people saying that it's gonna be the greatest. Which, don't get me wrong. Once again, there are people who are saying this, you know, that shouldn't be saying it. Like, you know, like some people do believe that this is gonna be the greatest game that's ever been designed and released and thought of, and nothing will ever come close to it again. Like, there are some people out there like that, but there's not really like that many. You know, I feel like it's just people like him who want people to think that way. That way he can make a video like this, you know, like telling people to simmer down. Because the thing is the only thing that really steers like this hype train is whenever you have like enough people who are just excited for a game, and then they say some good things about it online, and then like news reporters will take and like make some really hellacious clickbait, you know, title for an article they're writing, and then that's when it gets out of hand. It has nothing to do with the players or the player base or anybody. It's just some people who were excited for a game were talking about it, and then you know, a reporter was like, oh, it's going to be amazing. And then, of course, everybody clicks on the thing that, you know, because everybody wants there to be a good MMO, you know. I don't know.
Going to be in your own mind. If Ashes of Creation releases and it's an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 on anyone's scale, fantastic. It'll be an extremely good MMORPG. I'm excited to play it. The issue we're seeing now, and the issue that's being created by the players, is Everyone's expecting
I
it to
don't
be this
know if it's by the
unrivaled
players,
11
man.
out of 10 masterpiece,
I
a
really
single
don't think it's the
shining
players that are
beacon
creating
in the
that mentality.
MMORPG.
I think it's the, it's people like IGN and Kotaku and people like that who are creating that sort of, like that sort of mindset. It's the articles you're seeing. And because he's a gaming journalist, he probably looks through those websites quite a bit and sees those articles. And then, and then it's backed up by people in his chat being like, yeah, man, I'm excited for Ashes of Creation. That game looks really fun. Fucking, he's like, what? Which, I mean, I like Josh. I don't think he's, like, being, like, too ridiculous about it. I just think, he may just be reading into it more than, I don't know, maybe people are freaking out about this game. I've never seen anybody, like, losing their mind over it. I mean, I've definitely seen people ask stupid questions. Oh, crap. All three of us tried to interrupt. Yeah, I don't know about
landscape.
it. I ain't
And
got
anything
now,
less
it's on
than
you.
perfection is going to be seen as unacceptable. And this is just not a believable or a safe place for a game to be in before it even releases. Let's have a look at some gameplay. IGN has a video featuring pre-alpha gameplay from 2018, so if we start here, we can compare changes with more up-to-date footage. We see a standard third-person camera, health and mana of the player to the bottom left, abilities listed in hotkeys along the bottom, enemy health when in combat shown to the top of the screen with no minimap visible. Graphically, it looks fine. High polygon count, nice explosions and water effects, particle effects on display as earth magic spells are cast. The video shows a standard, high-quality, third-person action game. Over on the Ashes of Creation YouTube channel, we've got a developer Q&A with some more recent but still alpha gameplay footage. The video is an hour long, so I watched it, and here's the highlights. 16 minutes in, we see some lovely lighting and particle effects with the blue swirling vortex. 17 minutes in, we get a look at some mounts, with all the devs riding a two-tailed, black-furred, fox-like thing. 26 minutes in, we see group combat. Lovely particle effects. The enemy uses an AoE, which briefly shows a red circle on the floor, and players can dodge out the way. The enemy drops some loot, and players can roll need or greed on it. The rest of the video is standard third-person group content and some nice environmental design ideas. But what about the node gameplay, the actual player-created aspect they've been heavily pushing, the main old-school design focus, actions and consequences, because the gameplay shown is good, but nothing player-controlled node system they've been relying on so heavily. While searching the official Ashes of Creation YouTube channel, the last mention of nodes I can find, specifically nodes, is 2 years ago. So I checked the Ashes of Creation subreddit, and before I could even search for the word node, I see these two threads, one explaining how the game is still years away from a full release, and one begging people not to pre-order because you know how bad pre-orders can go. Searching for node on the subreddit links us to this YouTube video with some more alpha footage of the exact moment a node levels up. At 48 minutes and 20 seconds into this developer video, you can see the moment in this small settlement. It instantly upgrades to a fortified city. It's not a slow building process, it's an immediate switch, and any player standing where a new asset is about to be placed, as the developer is in this video, is warped out, using the developer's words, of that place and put next to wherever they were standing. The video is from March 2020, so we can see the node system does in theory work. It's just an immediate upgrade from rank A to rank B and an immediate graphical change. We've also got multiple YouTube channels now springing up, all dedicated to covering Ashes of Creation gameplay and class releases, likely all banking on it being the next big thing and riding that wave. So where does this all leave us now? We've seen proof of third-person gameplay, we've seen some nice graphics, we've seen the node system even does, in practice, work. So with all of that, and all the bold claims the game is still making about revolutionizing the genre, where are we now? If you're excited for Ashes of Creation to release, then I'm excited for you.
Yeah,
but I also want to issue a call to reason. It's still early days in the development, and while Ashes of Creation is probably going to be good, if it follows player feedback and it follows a decent development schedule, it might even be great if they take their time and make the best game they possibly can.
And if you've
will
watched
it be able to
any
stand
of their
among the
live
big
streams, you would
five?
know
Will it
that
be able
they
to stand
are.
up there with the Elder Scrolls Online or Final Fantasy XIV or RuneScape?
I think it will.
Who knows at this moment? The single biggest issue the game is facing right now is not developer contact. It's not updates. It's not communication. It's player expectations and the unrealistic level being placed upon it. Please remember games like No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk, WildStar, Duke Nukem Forever, the first version of Final Fantasy XIV, first few months of the Elder Scrolls Online, Spore, Fable, Diablo 3, hell, even Guild Wars 2, when it released, it was hyped beyond belief and then met with disappointment despite being a very good game. When you overhype games, you create a situation where even if the game is great, it's never as great as you thought it would be.
See, and this is the thing. This isn't a video about Ashes of Creation. This is a video about gamer hype. Like, he literally could have just made this video about literally any game. Any game. You literally could have just throw in any fucking... Hell, throw The Sims. Say The Sims instead, dude. You literally could say this about any other game. Like, you know, and just use the same, like, take that script, swap it out with, like, anybody else, basically. You know, and it's the same ordeal. Literally no difference.
In your mind, and you're always disappointed because of this. Ashes of Creation has so far shown us it's not only got the funding, but it's got the team behind it to make it a reality. And they've been releasing consistent updates showing us progress. So, unlike most Kickstarter MMOs, I believe this one will actually eventually end up existing. It's got some pretty lofty aspirations, and claiming it's going to revitalise the genre, that's bordering on arrogant. But it probably will be a decent game. But stop hyping it up! And you're probably going to enjoy it a hell of a lot more. You know how games like Valheim just came out of nowhere, ended up being quite good, and we all liked them? That's because no one expected it to be perfect. We were just happy with a really good game. If we keep expecting Ashes of Creation to be the saviour, we're going to be disappointed. The player interaction that it's discussed, the building, the establishing of trade routes, the cities and the player creations, that does concern me. We've seen things like this in Albion Online, where it often means higher level players hang out at the PvP zones and gank the new players the moment they step into any...
Well, not only just high level players, just groups of players. You'll literally get gangs forming, you know, and they just run around and you know, as what it is, it's just gang violence on Albion.
Kind of PvP territory. We've seen in Shroud of the Avatar how when you give players the ability to construct anything, they just make garish monstrosities in the overworld, immersion-breaking structures. And honestly, nothing I've seen from the pre-alpha or the alpha footage is world-changing. It's good. We've got third-person action camera, action combat, hotkey abilities. We've got nice graphics, a good node system. They've shown it works. But nothing has shown me they'll reinvent the wheel. What they have so far is a very solid game that sits
based
nicely.
On that, but if you watch the Unreal Engine 5 stuff too, I think the weather dynamics is one of the coolest things that I've seen just in a game in general. Which, I mean, weather dynamics have been done a lot. But in a MMO aspect, where over the course of the week, you know, the weather is changing, I think that is kind of next level, you know, as far as like immersion goes. I mean, nothing game breaking, like super cool next gen, you know, as far as like what it is to be an MMO. It's not changing anything like that. They're just kind of going off the you know, the regular tropes of an MMO. Or 1, 2.
within the MMORPG framework and will absolutely find a hardcore of players when it releases. They've got a very high quality product, but they're not revolutionizing the genre. And to think that they're going to on release is setting yourself up for a disappointment. I'm not saying don't look forward to it. I want you to be excited for things. Hell, I'm excited for it.
Stable
I'm saying
MMO
approach
that's
it
new,
with grounded optimism, with a healthy skepticism toward any claim that is made. Admire it for being ambitious and admire it for being pretty. It looks good, but don't put it on a pedestal yet. Not until it's been released for a few months or a few years and it's settled into its actual place within the MMORPG sphere. Let it release, let the players evaluate it and see where they think it belongs in the tier of quality, and then let it continue to have a life as long as it can sustain. Yeah, it's not going to be released for a few more years yet, and maybe it's going to be here to stay. Who knows? Hopefully it won't be another flash in the pan. But you're not helping anyone by hyping it up as the next big thing before it's even released. Remember that everyone was super hyped for Albion Online, and while that has found a substantial and hardcore player base and is still definitely a healthy population size, it's not the world-dominating force that everyone claims it would be. So I say again, look forward to Ashes of Creation, but don't board the hype train.
He is doing that, and
it never stops where you think it will. I look forward to playing Ashes of Creation on release. I wish the devs all the best, and hopefully I'll keep up with its development cycle.
My channel exploding
but
on Ashes
I'm keeping
of
my
Creation,
expectations realistic and my anticipation tempered. And unless you want to be disappointed, I suggest you do the same. Cheers for watching. What are your opinions on Ashes of Creation?
What I'm guessing is gonna happen. Hey, why don't we leave a comment? This video isn't really about Ashes of Creation. About gamer hype. Nah, we won't do it. I'm not a comment kind of guy anyways. Usually, sometimes I'll be like, hey, nice, cool stuff. I enjoyed that. Like, if somebody's like, hey, throw a comment in there to help out my metrics, and they're like a small creator, I usually do stuff like that, but I usually never comment anything other than that. Most of the time, it's just like, good job, like the video, nice work, just to try to help people's metrics. Now, Maya, you're not getting none of my food, sis. It ain't happening. This shit is mine, yo. Let me go get a drink. Well, no, I got a drink. I probably should have went and got some ice, though. Yeah, I'll go grab some ice. What happened? Oh, my game crashed. That's fun. Oh, no, it didn't crash? Well, that's even more fun, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I was wanting to leave the party anyways. Douche, voice chat? Dude, why is there voice chat? Do I even have voice chat on? Can people hear you in this game? Let's see, social. Features, accessibility. System, sound, voice chat. I mean, I don't want there to be voice chat. Well, since when has WoW had voice chat, man? I guess that would be the audio, but here's the microphone device. Output device would be that. Oh, okay, so that's my push to talk key. Test, test, test. So yeah, it is picking up my mic. Man, I don't want this on. How do you turn this off? Test, test, test. All right, we'll at least do it like that just in case, you know? I don't think it works, but you never know, man. You never know. You all Alright. Pooch has got their food. Now I can eat my food. See what all I got. Straw here. What else are we gonna watch? The meal prep guy? Bro, why you meal prepping? Why would anybody meal prep? I didn't even know there was ice in it. If I knew there was ice in it, I wouldn't went and got ice. I just assumed there wasn't any in it. You know, they always bring barbecue sauce, but I never use barbecue sauce whenever I'm eating barbecue. I just like eating the meat plain. Just pure meat. Don't need no sauce. How the hell did you get up there, brother? Look at there. It's Pink. Sing a song, Pink. Let's see. We need another heroic to do. Let's see. We need 4, 8. We need to do 3 more heroics today. That way I can get my gloves. So we're trying to do... God, I wish it would just queue you for the ones... I wish there was a button to queue you for the ones that you weren't locked on. What time is it? 5:30? Yeah, I need to do 3 more heroics before we do... Did I do Halls of Lightning or Halls of Stone earlier? I think I did Halls of Lightning. I did Calling. I did Nexus. I didn't do Oculus. I did UP. I didn't do UK. Okay, I think it's just these. I need at least one of these 3 done. Or 3 of these 6 or whatever the hell. Ooh, done. Yeah, look at that. That's good right there. And we got an instant invite. Mm. The disturbing case of the Halloween candy killer. Let's hear this one.
My grandson
loud.
evidently himself last night. He's cold. You can't move him.
The people off behind us watching with binoculars and stuff.
Okay, do you know what happened? No, I don't. His head is back. His eyes
Jesus.
are open.
He was murdered. By who? I don't know.
Had his head covered. His head was covered? Yeah, he had the blanket up over his face.
What you just heard was the chilling voice of Jonna Pulliam calling 911. The grandmother had just found her 14-year-old grandson, Harley Starling, dead in his bed on, of all days, Halloween morning. As the horrifying details of the case emerge, she learns that this was more than another tragedy, but something far more sinister. It's the night before Halloween 2016 in Springfield, Ohio, and the Starlings are safe at home marathoning a parade of horror movies, such as The
It's always
Eye
us
and
trailer folk who
Paranormal
have the most
Activity.
clutter
In the
in a
room are
house.
the Starling brothers, including 16-year-old Nicholas Starling and 14-year-old Harley Starling, along with their
These
grandmother
breads
Jonna
right
and
here,
her boyfriend
these suckers
Victorino.
are so good.
When the movie marathon is over, the family turns in for the night. But when Jonna wakes up the following morning, she finds Harley's door locked and the boy unresponsive. She calls for him to wake up and unlocks the door, only to find the boy's body is blue and cold to the touch.
Were there any weapons around or anything? I don't know if he was playing with fake blood or what. There's stuff. There's like the fake blood stuff all over his arm and up around his shoulder. And you said his eyes are open too? Yes. Okay. I shook him because I was trying to wake him up. His dad just died 2 years ago. Okay. Are there any guns in the house that you know of? Yes, but he can't get to them. Okay. Do you live here with them, or how? They live with me. They've lived with me since their dad. And what was? It was in November. Did you hear anything weird last night or anything? No. Okay. He just went to bed, and that was it.
Jonna was certain Harley had taken his own life, but things weren't quite adding up. Investigators quickly got to work questioning those in the home the night of Harley's death. The interrogations begin with Jonna Pulliam, who took custody of the late Harley and his older brother Nicholas 2 years prior to the incident. Looking back, the boys undoubtedly had a rough upbringing before moving into Jonna's custody. Their father was tragically killed, and their mother was in and out of the home. Jonna sets the scene for detectives,
I gotta turn this down in my
describing
ear.
the moments that led to
Too
her
loud.
discovering Harley dead in his bed.
Hey,
I left the room
Go
at
on.
the same time. I said, good night, I love you. He said, I love you. And I went in my room, he went in his room.
Okay. And then you heard Nick up a couple times throughout the night.
Yeah, I heard it squeak, the door.
The door squeak.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if the cat wants out, he'll go jump on you.
Okay.
So I got my door shut. They can't jump on me. They can't wake me up. But they do wake up Nick.
Okay, so Nick
He'll
will
get
let them up?
Yeah, he'll let him out.
Okay. So then you saw him up, and then,
Yeah, that's on the video.
and then you woke up again in the morning at 5?
At 5, I hollered at Nick, and he said, yeah. When I came out and I asked Nick, and Nick was coming out of the bathroom, he said, yes, I'm going to get him up. And he walked over to the door, and he says, Grandma, the door's locked. Usually it's not locked, so.
Okay. So then what happened?
all right, go
So
on.
then I went and got the key,
Go,
Okay.
and I unlocked the door.
go.
Okay.
She's using a lot of open palm gestures, which can indicate she has nothing to
Sis,
hide.
I love you, but
When
I'm not
interpreting
giving
what
you all
open
this
palms
meat.
mean in body language, it all depends on the context. It's typical in normal conversation for someone to use a mix of both high confidence, palm
You're a
down,
good pooch, sis, but
and
no.
low confidence, palm up positions. In this context, Jonna is simply telling her story and is not making any strong declaratory statements. So her
Test.
frequent and
Okay.
appropriate hand gestures
Just
are
making
likely
sure
a
my damn
sign
thing
of
wasn't on.
truthfulness.
But nothing out of their routine seemed odd.
No. Just
Usually
the
they
fact the
cut
door
these
was
damn
locked.
egg rolls in half.
And he said you noticed his window was open.
Yeah, Nicholas noticed his window was open.
Nicholas noticed
He
that.
said his
But
window was open. I said, was it open? I didn't notice.
were his curtains closed or were they open?
They're automatically closed. They're just always closed. The people off behind us watching with binoculars and stuff, so.
Oh, I need to buy
try
more
always
dust
keep
real
curtains
quick.
up.
Dude, just the amount of dust that I need to start being more like conservative with my dust.
No, just they're peeping toms. They're just weird.
Because it just seems like I'm constantly having to buy dust. Like I never have enough.
I've not been in your house, so I may ask some questions. You're like, well, yeah.
Okay.
He's probably been the only one not in your house today.
Okay.
So you said you
Arcane
saw
powder.
monitors, so I'm
Let's
assuming
buy
you have 2
60
different
this
monitors.
time.
No, I have one monitor. It has 4.
Rune of Portals.
cameras
Buy
on it.
another
Did you see what Nick was
20 of
doing?
these.
He just went to the door and opened the door. I thought it was my funky neighbor asking for money.
Jonna's demeanor is a
funky
little
neighbor
more
asking
upbeat
for
than one would
money.
expect for a grandmother who found their young grandson deceased. But everyone handles grief differently. Reflect back to the 911 call, and you'll notice she was fairly calm then, too.
My grandson evidently killed himself last night.
She may not want to break down in front of the detectives, so she
Yeah,
laughs
that's one
and
of
makes
those
jokes
things
in order
where-
to cope with the loss.
Yeah,
there's really
some
nothing
people
too
do
late to do
that.
about this part. The autopsy, they're still working on it, actually, as we speak, okay? Well, what we do know is that we're not investigating a homicide, or, okay, he didn't hurt himself.
The injury that he's sustained could not have been self-inflicted.
What happened?
We're not entirely sure yet. We're still trying to piece everything together. Any reason to think that your boyfriend would do something like this?
No, I wouldn't leave it.
Throw this on the priest.
The possibility.
I wouldn't think
He's
so.
got
Notice the
a little bit
immediate
of
and
gear,
resounding
but
no for the boyfriend. But when she's asked about Nicholas,
nothing
she uses a
too
qualifier
crazy.
saying, I wouldn't think Nicholas would do it either, indicating that she may be a
got
little
a good ring.
uncertain as to
Or
his
no, that's
innocence.
He was my baby.
PvP ring.
2 weeks old, 3 weeks old.
How have things been since you got him 2 years ago?
They've had rough in and out,
Okay.
because, their dad dying. And I found out he didn't allow him to have any friends, and Harley was trying to make friends with everybody at school.
Sure.
Now we hear a strain in Jonna's voice. This is the first time we've audibly heard Jonna express sadness. Remembering what the boys were like when they were younger and the love she felt for them may be triggering her feelings of grief.
I went from trying to figure out why he would kill himself to who would kill him and why.
Why would
What would they advance? There's no
It doesn't
advantage to it.
It doesn't make any
that
sense.
shaman's
to
got
us
like
either,
18k
okay?
health.
So that's why we're trying to figure out what the hell happened, because we don't know.
Her grief may be compounded now by feelings of stress or guilt
Yeah, he's
that
pretty
someone
jacked,
inside
huh?
the home may have
Look at
killed
that.
Harley. She may be wondering what signs she missed, or if
Dude
she
is
could have
all
done
purpled
anything
out.
differently to prevent this tragedy. As Jonna's heartbreaking confusion
And
echoes,
dude, he's got like everything.
investigators turn their attention to Harley's older brother, Nicholas.
Hi, Nick. How are you? You doing all right?
Jesus.
You doing okay? Not really.
Yeah, this dude is jacked, man. Yeah, we're
Immediately,
swapping that
Nicholas
over to him.
clasps his hands under the table. Interlacing your fingers can be a common way to ease feelings of anxiety or stress. The gesture is an example of an adapter, or a method individuals use to comfort themselves. It's comforting
Yeah,
because
look
it
at this
subconsciously
shaman, dude.
restores a sense of
Fucking
control
jacked,
in
bro.
what
This dude's
could
about to be
otherwise
pumping.
be a totally out-of-control situation. And this situation certainly fits the bill.
Okay, so when you went
Yeah,
to
look at
bed,
that.
who was all,
Look at that,
everybody
dude.
all still up?
Immediately like 3k DPS.
Well, as far as I can tell, everyone was going to sleep.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. BOE. 50 gold.
Mm-hmm.
I gone and
Well, brother, now I have to.
and then later
Mm,
I got back up because I didn't sleep
I
until
need it
got the dogs back in.
for my rogue. Oh.
Okay, do you leave your door open or closed?
Open.
Open? Okay, so if anybody else is not moving around or anything like that, you would know that. Great, okay. So you went to bed.
I'll just go with agreed. The paladin can have it.
I am
Fuck
kind
it.
of headaches.
Okay.
There's a notably long pause before Nicholas answers about his sleep, and it's not just his slow speech. Throughout the interview so far, Nicholas has presented as someone much younger
What
than
did
he
it?
actually
Does it not show our
In
greed
one
rolls?
instance, he provided unnecessary and excessive detail given the question asked, indicating that he might have trouble understanding the intended meaning of simple questions.
And you have two, they're pretty big dogs, aren't they?
No, one's a little dog. He's a mixture between a Beagle and a Basset. The
Oh, okay.
biggest dog with the clouded eye is a mixture between chocolate Labrador and pitbull.
Okay. Okay.
In addition to his monotone speech, his speech is also slow. Nicholas seems to struggle with expressing himself verbally. This may explain his slower delivery, as he could need time to think about what he
Shaman
wants
should
to
really let
say,
me interrupt
or
first.
he may struggle to find the right words. All of these characteristics are typical of individuals with autism spectrum disorder, ASD. We can't make any conclusions about Nicholas's diagnosis based on an interrogation tape, but he displays some behaviors that align with this diagnosis.
Skirmisher first.
I've gone to their boxes, opened their cages, walked to my grandma's store.
Okay. So through grandma's store.
Gone through her room, opened the back door, let him out.
Okay.
Closed it.
It's important to note that most individuals with autism spectrum disorder do not commit acts of violence and murder. According to research,
I would
it's the
say
presence
I
of
really
other
doubt it.
conditions, co-occurring disorders, such as personality disorders, mood disorders, or psychosis, that can contribute to a greater risk of violence among individuals with ASD.
Yeah, they would have to be something else wrong. It couldn't just be like autism only.
I'm not going to go into details about my dreams.
Your what?
My dreams.
Okay, I'm not worried about your dreams.
Which I mean, most people
Individuals with
that
developmental
Nah, shit, I
disabilities
goofed
often
there.
take words, statements, and
Hear me out,
questions
brother.
very literally. This can be part of their general struggle with interpreting language and communication. Even though no one asked him, Nicholas wanted to make it clear that he doesn't want to go into details about his dreams. But one thing Nicholas hasn't made clear that his grandmother Jonna did is her genuine interest in what actually happened to Harley. She asked detectives for answers again and again.
I went from trying to figure out why he would kill himself to who would kill him and why. What would they advance?
That isn't the case so far with Nicholas, who
I'm
hasn't
giving that
asked
shaman a run
at
for his
all.
money, that's for
So
sure.
after everybody
Even
else
though he's
went to
got all
bed,
that gear, man, I'm like 2K
went to
DPS
bed,
down off
did
of
you
him.
actually go to sleep though?
After I was done watching Ghostbusters.
I mean, 2K is a lot of fucking
What's that
DPS though,
over?
to be fair.
Then I turned it off.
2K is
I
literally
turned
like
the TV off.
that Shadow Priest's entire damage. I know. And this shaman's pumping 5, I'm pumping 3.
I think about 1 something.
So then you go to bed, and then what time do you get up?
Well, I got up about.
I was
5
giving him a
o'clock
good run
when
there for a
first
minute though.
alarmed.
Okay.
It just
5
takes me a
a.m.
minute to get built
I
up.
got to take a shower. Then when I got out of the shower, I got to Hardy's door.
Okay.
I knocked.
Okay.
I said, Hardy, it's time for you to take a bath. He didn't answer.
Notice that his tone changes when discussing Harley. Until now, we've heard a mostly monotone Nicholas. But now, just like that, he sounds almost agitated when he speaks Harley's name.
Okay.
I said, Hardy.
He's also not frontally aligned with the detective, meaning he isn't facing her directly. This can indicate a person is being deceptive and/or feels uncomfortable. It's also part of a behavioral profile for deception, along with being slouched, using barriers, and being unnaturally rigid for long periods of time. Each one alone is not definitively meaningful, but it is when you have other indicators.
So when you knocked twice, he didn't answer.
Go get her, brother.
No.
Okay, and then what happened?
Well, after I was done trying to get him out, I told
1,
Grandma that he wasn't
2,
Okay, did
3.
you go into
We're
his
not
room
gonna be able to
anytime
do all
before
the
you woke
damage we
Grandma?
want to do, but
No.
we'll have some damage.
Well, she moves through the key. She finds the key to his bedroom.
Mhm.
She opens it, tells